So the interviews begin for Kalki 28980, and this one is from the set itself by Film Companion. If you want to watch the whole video without interruption, without me talking in the middle, go watch it on Film Companion channel. I'll put the link to that in the description. But there's a reaction, I'll be pausing. It's not a substitute for the main video. So I'm pretty excited to watch this. I'm sure we're gonna get a lot of cool stuff to know about behind the scenes. How they came up with the idea, how they executed it, what took them so long. I want to know everything, and they're on the set. So maybe some inside things we'll get to see, hopefully. So without any delay, let's check out this interview and get to know from the producer and the director himself.
Nag, Swapna, Priyanka, first of all, welcome to Film Companion. I cannot tell you how excited I am to be
I am too.
sitting here on the set of Kalki 28980 AD. It just looks spectacular. I have so many questions, but first, I just want to say to all of you that I'm a big admirer of ambition, of just
too.
Big leaps of faith.
Especially from Telugu cinema. I actually made a video about that. Why Kalki will change Indian cinema forever. Definitely check it out. I talked about how Telugu cinema has been doing this for ages actually.
Of grand...
On the main channel.
Just grand daring. And I just feel like I'm not sure that we'll see another film in Indian cinema this year that takes the leaps that this one does. And so whatever happens on release date, you guys deserve applause for just taking that damn leap.
That's true.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for doing that. And Nag, you just want to tell us where we are?
We're in Kasi.
Yeah, we should welcome you to the sets of
Kasi.
Welcome to 28980.
I love it. I love it. It's been less than 24 hours since the trailer released.
So it's after the trailer. Okay.
Millions of views across languages. Bookings have started in the US. This baby that came out of your head, that the two of you have helped bring into the world, is now just going out there, right? It's
interesting that the story also has a baby that has to be saved, and they also have come together and create a baby that has to be saved and cherished. So quite meta there.
You're getting feedback from all over the globe. You're waiting. Everyone's sort of breathless with anticipation. What is your state of mind? Are you guys sleeping at all?
Oh, that's a good question for you.
I don't think any of us are fully.
Really?
But yeah. It's the last leg, right? It's the last dash to the finish line. Like with every film, like till somebody pulls the hard drive out of your hand, it's not done. So
that's true. There's a quote that films never finish, they just get released. Like a director is never happy that this can be changed, this can be done, this can be done. Like at the end you have to stop them, take it from them and just release it. It will never end. Their fascination to just keep working and making it better, it never ends. Ask any director.
Be like a bigger tug of war, I think.
So Nag, I want to ask you a question that I saw Mr. Bachchan ask in a video.
Yeah.
He said through the making of the film, I was asking Nag, how did you think of this? What are you drinking and what are you smoking? Right? So you can tell me what you're drinking and smoking off camera, but how did you think of this?
I don't know, really. To be honest, you grow up reading something that you really like. You have one story of the Mahabharata that really gives you the goosebumps. And then you realize that, or even something from Greek mythology, the stories. I remember the stories of Medusa or something when I was growing.
That's something Hollywood and West has explored so much. Greek mythology and even what's the other one? What is Thor from? Thor is not from Greek. Nordic mythology, is that right? I don't know. Yeah, something like that. So they've explored those ideas in so many different ways and forms, right? And I think here it's also, we are sensitive about our scriptures and our religion and all of those things, that we don't want these kind of interpretations and different ways to portray it. I think that's also an issue, but I think we as a country are still young. I think the more we grow and focus on our own history and culture and how we can represent it in different ways over time, I think that's gonna be a better thing, and I think this film is a leap in that direction.
Up in school, so there's so many mythology and sci-fi stories, and I was like, we come from a country that is already so rich with these tales, with these stories and folk. So why don't we try to make it mainstream rather than a bit of a offbeat sort of a movie? That is something that always was in my mind, and I think it just developed over 10 years or something, and different versions, and then finally, I think about a few years back, I heard that people were starting to think about ideas that were around mythology and immortals and things like that, and I was like, okay, it's time to make this film.
We're actually getting, like, there's a Immortals of Ashwatthama film that never happened because of the budget. There's the Ashwatthama film happening. There's a Karnan film happening. So I think taking Mahabharata and making a film is very difficult. It has happened in animated form, but it's just too hard. It's too big of a story to tell in just one film. And I think the way he has done it, like taking a futuristic aspect of it and connecting to the mythology, it's very interesting.
So you have this idea for a mythological science fiction, which is just spectacular and so singular in what it's trying to do. Kind of take elements of things we've actually only seen in international cinema. There's very little to compare with in Indian cinema, but the roots are absolutely Indian. Kalki is the 10th avatar of Lord Vishnu. You have this idea, let's make this movies, we're hoping. How do you convince
Nicely
them?
put there.
Right. Did you have to be very persuasive, or did the two of you, and you produced all his films, were you convinced immediately?
I've only seen Mahanati of his. Are there more? I didn't know. I thought he only did that movie. I need to catch up on his films before this release.
So with Nagi, it's, obviously it's a 3-film journey, and it's always the conversation of, so what are we doing next? And then when he narrated this idea, it obviously blew our mind. But then only later, we realized what we're getting into. So I think in the initial stage, obviously, I think that's the core of the film also. It's very simple and very straight to heart, and the story is something that everybody can relate to. So
that's good to hear.
That was something which was like fantastic. And now then comes the world. Then when the world came in, then we realized that wow.
I just want to say, if anyone from this team of Kalki is watching, or if anyone can get me in touch with Nag Ashwin, like, I would like to talk to him, and I have so many questions, like even if a small interview is possible, please let me know.
Wow, now this is something else. And I think the initial few months, or probably to year or so, it was very difficult for us also to understand the vision. So it took some time. It took some time to pull in the kind of workforce he needed, and he'd get frustrated, be like, you guys are not understanding. I'm like, yeah, inside I know we're not understanding enough, but then only when we started seeing what he actually made, you'd understand, damn, this is what he's made. So yeah.
Now talk about this vision, because you've said somewhere that in your head it was a character from Amar Chitrakatha fighting a character from X-Men. Right?
Oh, interesting.
That's how you describe it. That's how you describe it. Yes, it sounded amazingly cool. Right? But when you're trying to do this, when you're
I never heard that before, so I don't know.
So many different threads, and you are making a film which is so massive, right? Even in terms of scale, and of course in terms of budget. So you have to make it kind of be all things to all people, right? It has to play across demographic. How do you balance that as a storyteller? That this much can be unfamiliar, this much should be familiar, east, west. How did you do that?
I don't think filmmakers should think like that. Like, that's a producer talking. Like, that's a finance guy talking. Creatively, if you I think Rajamani doesn't think about east, west and everyone thing. I think in the marketing and the way he puts out his films, languages and everything, the dubbing people, he wants for people to dub it, and he rewrites the dialogues to match every dub, that's a extra work he's doing, which is not the creative part of it. The story has to be same. It doesn't change according to different regions. Let's hear him out.
I think definitely in the course of 5 years, there are moments of like, trying to balance things and whether we're on the right direction. But I think whenever you get that little confusion, I just go back to the core of like, I'm making this essentially for myself as a kid. Like as a 10 or a 12-year-old guy, I just want to watch this and be like, wow, this is what's possible in this world. And I think I felt that a few times when I watched movies when I was that age, just before I became a cynical teenager or something. So in that era when anything was possible, so I'm making it for that kid, and that kid is, I think, the most important person.
So there's no
very conscious.
It's not calculative in that sense.
It's not as much as. I mean, there is going to be action, and when people they're always going to be happy that there is action because it feels like a demographic sort of decision. But the action that I do is also fun. It's also for that sort of a kid. It's not just, just for the sake of an idea or something. Yeah, it's still just.
Good to hear that.
Always just to either have fun or to inspire. At the end of the day.
Okay, and you're, Priyanka, very silent in the corner. So please let me have you come in here.
No, I was just thinking, he said like, fights are fun. I'm like, fights are fun. For days and days, months and months, we are shooting one sequence. Yeah.
Glad to hear that. It's good because it demands that. If a good fight sequence demands time, preparation, like, to get that quality, you need to spend time and effort, and money.
And this is all what's out in the net. Though Variety reported budget of $70 million. What's on the net is 600 crores. Do you care to confirm or deny?
I think it would be nice to have the numbers of box office ringing, and then we will talk. I think it would be
nice.
Great to
Good
have
decision.
this conversation post the release and
Post the release, yes.
Yeah.
and what? So we'll come back to conversations the two of you must have had of how much to rein him in, how much to let him go. But come back to the storytelling, right? You have the most incredible star cast. If you had just said Prabhas and Deepika, that would have been enough. But you've also said Mr. Bachchan. You also said Kamal, Haasan, who in that trailer looks like, oh my God, everyone's just jaws have dropped, right?
Yeah.
And of course, there's Disha, and rumor is that there's Vijay Deverakonda. Rumor is that there is Dulquer Salman.
Rumors.
All of you just sitting there.
Are they?
Of course, they're not going to reveal it in an interview.
Well, listen, Dulquer was so charming in Mahanati that I'm like, bring him in, just even for a scene, we'll be happy.
Yeah.
But what was a day on the set like?
I mean, it depends on what day. Like, shot for quite a few days. I think a movie like this is something. We had to figure out a day at a time. I think all movies you do that. And for this one, right from designing stuff like the set that we're in, and we're always trying to make it familiar yet futuristic, and then whether it's costumes or the way a character would speak, the casting, like whenever you just have background actors, we always think of trying to mix it up with different nationalities and the way they would be. So every day on set is like a exercise of thought, like how it would be. And
It's people management, because the number of extras you need to have for sequences, you have to explain everything to them. It's all about management. I think director's main job is managing everyone, managing every department, cinematography, editing, sound, everything, the actors, the cast, the writers. Like, it's about managing everything. That's it. There's no direction actually.
So yeah, when we do action, it's chaotic. When we do just like I remember telling I think Prabhas at some point, like, when in a regular film, like if you suddenly feel like you needed like an extra shot, or you needed like one scene where the character probably needs to just look into the distance or something. Something as simple as that, you could just do that. Like you just call the character, go to a balcony or a location and do it. But here it's a whole army that needs to come, and there's a VFX setup that has to go into it, and somebody has to build something. So, and it's not even like we're in like Dune or Star Wars, so you can just shoot in a real desert or something. It's not even that kind of world. So we decided to build a whole setup and a city and worlds inside worlds. So it's just, I remember one of our VFX supervisors saying like, wow, you really didn't make it easy for yourself.
So was there any point at which the two of you told him like, enough, just rein it in
I'm
now?
waiting for that.
I think recently, like after like 100 and whatever odd days, I think recently I was like, I think it's enough. You
finally reached your threshold.
We're coming close to the thing. I think we can just let go of this. It's fine. Like let's go back.
I'd say actually we are more easier than him in terms of, being very conservative on set in terms of finances. He gets really worried if there's more than 2 cameras or probably more than 3 sorts of equipment. I know directors who work with, and people like to have all sorts of things, and so that it just becomes very easy and comfortable for them. Our man is always looking at, should I pack up Jimmy at 6 o'clock or, 1.5 questions? That's not your problem. You should not be worried about that. But that's nice. That man. He will be worried about it. And
that's good
for
mindset.
That kind of a man, what would you have? Why would you want to put a threshold? Because he knows what he's doing, and we need to give him what it deserves to put that vision out. Yeah. So, the threshold only would be like, it's 4 a.m. maybe, we'd rather shoot another day. Let's let them go. So pretty much that.
One of my favorite scenes in Mahanati is when the director is telling the great actress Savitri to have a single tear when the camera comes to a...
That movie was so good. Like it was 3 hours and it went like a breeze. Like you're so invested in he creates a world that you live in for 3 hours. It's not like a typical biopic. You're just jumping and it's a highlight reel. Like you live and the moods he expresses using the colors. I still remember, like it's fresh in my mind still.
Certain position, right? And of course she does it. Are you a director like that?
He is. Yes. Yeah.
While he paused, you were like, yes.
No, actually, I'm just trying to imagine what kind of a director I am. I'm not fully sure. But yeah, there are a few things I let go and there are a few things I take a long time for. Like I think
you're very exacting with some things.
Yeah, I think I started off as an editor, so there are a few things which some people feel like they need it. That's so many times, and I'm like, you don't.
I didn't know that. And I think editors, even I, like whatever I have a short film or I imagine things because I know editing. I always think, this, I'll cut it there. That's how it will look, and then I cut to this. And I think that's how editors think. They are very efficient because they know how much they want, what they want, and how long it should be. And that's wrong also because you want to shoot extra. So in the editing, you can do some changes because if you shoot less, then you cannot increase it in editing. That also sometimes backfires. But editor also, I think most editors who have become filmmakers are actually really good and efficient.
It's going to go really fast, and there are a few. So maybe I'm that kind of guy.
No, he's definitely. He's that person. He definitely likes perfection to whatever level he can, unless the actor's really tired and be like, listen, I can't do beyond this. Otherwise, he'll I think will want what he wants. Yeah.
Nag, how do you tell Mr. Bachchan or the great Kamal Haasan what to do?
I always found it silly actually trying to tell them something about acting or their performance, but especially Mr. Bachchan sir, because we started our journey with him in this film. Like the very first day of shoot was with him, and like just I think it was a long time since I even shot a film back then. Like it was 2 years or 3 years or something. And then the first person I had to direct was Amitabh. I was like, what am I going to say? Like, sir, like a little slower. Like it just sounded silly.
Yeah, that didn't work. You want to try it again?
Yeah, but what I realized, I think down the lane with all of them was they really want to be part of the process. Like none of them.
They want to be directed.
They want to be directed. They don't want to think that they know what they're doing. They're fully, especially the bigger they are, like Bachchan sir or Kamal sir, they are even more open to being malleable and more ideas. They're like, they don't want to do what they've done before. They're like, don't make me be Mr. Bachchan or Mr. Kamal Haasan. I don't want to do that.
Which is what makes them great.
Yeah. Fully.
So they were open and receptive and
Fully they were. Yeah, and they were like, this like the action that you will probably see Mr. Bachchan do at it'll be great to watch him on film doing what he's doing.
so, one of the recurring notes in the BTS videos and all the material we've seen so far is starting from scratch, right? And I found that like just so interesting because obviously that's exactly what you guys did. When you create a world, you're creating costumes and currency and language and everything, right? How do you actually begin to do that? And where do you draw the line on what is organic to this world and what feels planted? Because it's all from your head.
It is. I mean, the origin is probably from my head, but there's a whole army. I'm not an army, but there's a small team. There should be an army. There's a small team of people who are fully on it. Like I mean, my first bouncing boards are these guys always for everything. And then Priyanka was taking care of art for the most part. So like getting concept designers on board and brainstorming with the production designer, art director team, like so much of that detail, which sure, it started on the paper and it was like, yes, I want this rickshaw, but I didn't make it. Like it's designed by like a bunch of people and a production designer. And I just have aesthetic decisions and choices, but it's like so many people who knew. After a while, I think the first few months, it was a lot of back and forth, but after a while it became like, we want a prop and they'll run and they'll make it in 1 hour by the time it's done.
I think we took almost 8 months to kind of set the mood, set the world of this whole movie. So then once, I think we started approaching from world to world. I think we started shooting with Bachchan sir's, the set.
The cave set you must have seen in his promo.
So it started off with that. So then like from there, we came to Kasi. So then when we came to Kasi, we started like, okay, so this is Kasi, it's what it is. So then what do we build on top of it? Like how do people like would go like 1,000 years from now? Like how do they do and keep some elements which you can never move, like the arches or like, those things you can never move from Kasi. So on top of it, like the mechanical stuff, like again, like just try to go like few hundred years and be like, okay, what do I need? Maybe there's no food, maybe there's no this, maybe there's no material. So, like approach things like that. So then we started building vehicles. Vehicles also is pretty much like, engineering, like, okay, now just go hubless wheels or like just...
We had a call out at some point for
production.
Engineers basically. So people were like, what are you guys doing? Then at some point we had a call out for...
I remember
for chemical engineers because we wanted a different kind of blast. Like I didn't want like a regular.
That's so fascinating to hear because that doesn't happen for our movies. You don't like for films like casting calls goes or maybe a technician calls goes out that you need a technician, but not engineers or chemical engineers because we don't bring science and our engineers into the filmmaking process. And I love that this film has merged that gap that, get me engineers who create stuff that I can use in this film. Amazing.
Regular, petrol blast because I was like, there's no petrol.
Correct.
Yeah. Oh my God, so much thought has gone in.
Like, there's no petrol blast. Like, what kind of blast do we do? So there, like a bunch of guys throwing some chemicals around trying to burn it. And
we had chefs, like people were like trying to make food, like like food bars and stuff like that. So there were like bunch of chefs trying to.
Every time there's food, there are like 4 people I know who are crying. Like in the production design team for sure. Like, what do we do? how are we going to make this in this scene?
But now for you, you're sitting there and this is of course the ultimate playing God, right? All directors play God, but this is the ultimate because you're actually creating a whole world, which is purely from your imagination. Was it pure instinct on what this should be, or did the two of you have a lot of input and the rest of the unit have a lot of input?
I think predominantly it's his vision, fully his vision, and world building was done by Priyanka and
a lot of
Nitin,
the whole team. I think
the whole production.
It is a process for sure. Like I think because also it's not something that we turned around in a year or year and a half where we had to rush also. Something that's been going on. So for example, if we're discussing a vehicle like Buji took so long to build and ideate and engineer and everything. I'm saying even on the second last day of shoot, we were changing something on Buji just so it looks nicer. So I'm saying
add things and
so it's like such a long process that suddenly one AD will have an idea saying, oh, this would have been cool. And they're like, sure, let's do it.
I remember going on to set one day in the evening and, they were all running around. I said, so what are we making now? They said, we're trying to make a milk bottle for a child. I'm like, wow. And then I'm waiting to see.
Wow.
And they're taking hundreds of different things which look like a milk bottle. And Nagi saying no to this, no to this, no to this. So it's I think, he has something in his head until that happens.
So much detail. I talked about in the animated sequence, we see a soda can. And it's not just a typical soda can, it looks different. It is designed for that time. My God, I love it.
It's a lot of process and fortunately, I think it was a crazy team and she spent few years to get that all right, I guess, hopefully.
But Nagi, when you are doing something like this, right? Like I asked before, where are the lines? Because the truth is, with the VFX, and with enough money, but we have the talent in India now, right? To be very ambitious with the VFX. You can literally just keep playing. So how do you, as a storyteller, say to yourself that these are the parameters within which I will play?
Sure. I mean, I think I'm definitely, for somebody who's as conscious about the budget as me, I'm making a very large film.
Yeah.
And I mean, everyone will ask, and like you asked, like, what is the budget? Is it 400, 500? What is it? Like, I think an appropriate answer for something like that is for what we're trying to do, or how much ever we've achieved on screen. If you take away probably the star cast, and you see what we probably achieved in this, and forget about Hollywood. I'm saying, like, even in Australia or something, a much comparatively smaller thing, a movie like this would have cost 3 times what we're doing. So our ambition is 3 times as large as our budget. So however the film looks, it could be 500. I don't know. These guys know the numbers, but whatever it is, it's probably.
The sisters are silent.
Yeah. Whatever it is, I think anybody from an objective production house from anywhere will say this probably would have cost that much more. And we have that leeway to still, I think even these guys have that leeway to still be a bit confident because of the star cast.
Yeah. But Priyanka and Swapna, did you, he's saying, it took 4 years, 5 years, right? Through this journey, did you ever feel overwhelmed just trying to find the right milk bottle or Buji's tiles,
I think it was like schedule to schedule, but there would be like a schedule where you're just creating everything, that would be like, oh my God, like, can we achieve it? Can we, get to the shooting date?
Like, you have to find, economical ways also sometimes. Like, as I said, right, like sometimes they had to stop him. Like, okay, we cannot get this. And maybe we'll spot these things in the trailer, in the movie. Okay, that scene could have been better. But maybe that was the limitation, right? We are not thinking like that. And I think most people should not. Like, you should focus on what you're seeing. Yeah, not think about, but why special case? Because they are doing something extraordinary with the limited resources they have. So the appreciation comes there also, that they are even trying, that attempt to do it even when you don't have the resources. That also adds to the, the narrative and idea that, I want to support them. Even if they have flaws, I'm okay to look away because I know the bigger picture that they are going for, which is more promising.
So there are like days where you'll be like, it's too much. But then again, you'll be shooting with the same things for like a month or two.
Yeah.
Then you'll be like, okay, it's the same stuff.
It's worth
like
it.
then again you'll be creating things, and so it's a very like it's a graph, where you'll be just like, I can't do this. And
Elated, panic,
yes,
elated, panic.
All kinds of emotions.
So I don't know if you know this story, but Yash Johar, Karan's father, used to say that when Karan started to make Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum, which at that point was the most expensive Indian film ever made, he had some budget in mind, some 20, 25 crores, which at that time was a lot of money. And apparently when the first song cost 3 crores, because Karan wanted Swarovski and Jamewar shawls and all the rest of it, Yashji just tore up the budget dramatically and said, now it is what it is. Kind of thing. Did the two of you have that moment on this film?
So I tell Priyanka at times, when she's like, hey, how many cars do we have? I said, like, I don't think we should really worry about those things at this point. And also, like, especially with someone who's as conscious as this man, you cannot have a restriction in the head, because he's definitely asking only for what is needed in the film.
Yeah.
He will not want to
He's a great director to work with. I think most producers will love to, produce his next film.
splurge on 500 junior artists. He says, I can manage with 100, make it look like 500.
In fact, we are the ones who'd like another
have
50.
more,
Take another 200. Let's
don't
not
stress and things like that.
So we just get it right.
Kanjoosi nahi chalegi.
Surprising. I'd agree with one thing for sure, that the overwhelming experience for this film has not been so much for like the other films. I remember for Manati, we're really like, shaking up, like, we're doing something very non-starry, very, very something that market has been saying, listen, what are you all doing? This might not work, or how would you take it into the audience and stuff. This film is not that. You have a certain sort of comfort with the star cast and with the story.
That helps a lot. Like, I think Kamal Hassan's 2-second shot is creating more hype. So in Tamil Nadu, people are excited to watch it. Maybe in Hindi, people are excited for Prabhas, Deepika, and Amitabh, and the world they are building. So, every region is attaching this film to them. Okay, maybe for the content, the world building, the, content, the actors, they have something to sell the film with. It's not just the concept itself, which many people may not buy into without even, like if they see it on OTT and they, oh, it was great film. Like many non-star films which were great, but they didn't find audience, in theaters. That's the difference here.
Storytelling and the commercialism and things like that. So I think I was a bit relaxed, which he's pretty angry with. Like, you can't be relaxed. You need to stop. Like, you need to,
be more stressed.
Be more stressed, or tell me like to stop somewhere. But yeah.
But there's also, of course, your dad, who's such a veteran producer, right? And it's the 50th year of Vajanti movies. This is very tricky, right? You're married. How did you, if there were creative, financial conversations, how do you balance between father and husband?
So there's, with my father, I just take that answer with my father. The budgets and don't align together at all. He's like, do whatever cinema needs. So he's that human being. So I was, at some point of time, I remember when we were doing Everday, I said, we are cracking a day cost in 1 lakh rupees. He said, you guys are unfit for cinema. Cinema is beautiful. Cinema is meant to be, large. And you can't
count pennies.
You can't compromise.
Wow.
That still rings in my head. So my dad's issues won't be budget.
Who's married? I didn't know that. She said they're married and...
He's like,
I'm confused.
The date. When are we releasing the film? What are we doing with it?
Are we shooting? Are we like, using the dates? Are we like, those things? But Yeah, he never like talks about. He only like what song, like what are the colors you're using. He loves creating stuff, and with her he has different conversations. But with us together, it'll be more for the film, not like the budgets or anything. But at the end, I'm sure
we maneuver well also. When it comes to me, she does.
Yeah.
It's me. And this is the advantage of all in the family also. So we maneuver well.
But there's never like, do you set rules of engagement that we don't talk professional at a certain time? Like, how do you separate?
Nothing. That's not there, I think, especially with this film,
work-life balance,
at home and stuff. But I think after Yesterday, me and Priyanka have kind of
figured out
we figured
how
out
to work with each other. Yeah.
So you've separated jobs.
Yes,
we separated.
Yeah,
like in sense, like make it, but this is what I will.
You're responsible for something.
Yeah, and then
when we have to come together, we come together. When I need help, she's there. When she needs help, I'm there. But then that's given us a great way of
structure.
Work structure.
Yeah. Nice. Okay, now coming back to the film, one of the most striking things in the trailer is the BGM. Right. And for a world like this, you need that. I mean, with Star Wars, you remember, like when you hear those notes, that's what makes your hair stand on end, right? And I was just thinking, I was like, okay, you've got this great composer, Santosh Narayan. Did you figure out whether people in the future sing or not?
Who, like in songs?
Yeah, like how do songs work in
they still sing.
28, 98?
Yeah, they sing.
They do sing, right? I was really hoping for that.
Yeah. Santosh.
Are they singing in the film? I didn't know this.
No, they're not lip syncing and singing. But their songs.
No, they do actually. No, there is singing in the film.
Oh yeah, there is.
There's like a proper lip sync song also, but it's not like a song and dance number sort of thing. But yeah.
Glad to know that.
Was that tricky to figure out? Would people sing like that, or like what are the tropes that you keep?
I mean, I don't think, except maybe Mugu Mansalu in Yesterday, I mean in Mahanati, I don't think I've ever done a song and dance sort of number or anything that has a lip sync per se. Like, even this, except for one song which does have lip sync, but it's not a cinematic breakaway, so to speak. You're not going away from the film to do this and come back. So I think I'm always a little wary about doing that, like maybe sensibility wise, but yeah.
Was there something you just couldn't crack, or that took really long to crack? Like, how would people do X so many hundreds of years from now?
A lot of things, I think, and that used to happen very early in the design stage. Like everything from food, like I was saying, is a big discussion. Food and water was a big thing. Vehicles were a big thing. Just trying to figure out what they do. People's relationships, interpersonal relationships. We're talking about the Kali Yuga, where people say that society is in a certain way, and we're trying to extrapolate this, and we realize the world's already in a pretty messed up state. So how do you extrapolate that?
How do you make it worse?
How do you make it worse? Like, every example that I remember, we sit and brainstorm saying, okay, this sounds cruel. We're like, but that's in the front page today.
I like that. We're gonna get some real nuances of real world, like some social. Of course, I think in a world like this, you have to add those things.
Yeah. I remember when the first scene of the film when Nagi narrated it to us a couple of years ago. There's like everybody on the streets are wearing masks. We're like, wow. And within 2 years, people are actually wearing masks.
So, so many things. Or even like things like oxygen bars are not new anymore. Like they're happening like in Delhi or whatever. It's like,
yep.
So,
Wow.
It's always like by the time the process we made this film, so many of these things have.
So you're trying to stay ahead of reality.
Yeah, I mean, trying to figure it out. And then there's the line there is also wondering how much we delve into that tech of it without disturbing the story, because sometimes just having a guy wearing a VR set is enough. We don't have to worry about, does this VR set really exist? Should we engineer this even more? Because
way to
maybe it's not
spend your time and effort.
Because at some point you're carried by the emotion rather than the actual logic
specific of it. Yeah.
So. And you have a close-up of Ma. So obviously, the mother emotion remains intact.
Has to, yeah, for sure it is.
What is Indian cinema without Ma, right?
Yeah, it is. We had to.
Tell me about Bujji, which is you launched the 2 episodes on Amazon Prime, which is of course setting up the world. And Kirti Suresh, who won a national award for the work she did with you in Manati, is voicing Bujji. How do you flesh out a character which is not human?
When was the last time this question could have been asked for Indian film? Like, when?
To be honest, like when you write a character, it's still a character. I mean, the human form comes only once we actually cast them.
That's true.
Till then, it's just an idea on paper. Like if I say, like for example, I'm saying Bhairava says a certain thing, it's just his personality that's speaking. So for me, it was always just Bujji's personality that was speaking. It just happened to be like a AI bot. Maybe it also has like a car and wheels, and it can maybe like run into you from behind if it gets angry or something. But it just works differently. But I think it wasn't too different to the way I approached writing it, I think. It just was meant to be Bhairava's buddy and just somebody who was constantly like sort of pulling his leg, and they have a great camaraderie. And
and with Deepika and Prabhas, did you have to kind of factor in the sort of massive fan bases and how to kind of weave in what people expect of them? Or could you be like, was it a blank slate because it set so much into the future?
I think I'm sort of oblivious to a few things, so that's good. Like I think Prabhas,
so star personas are not things that weigh you down.
I fully know what they've done and how much love they get on everything, and I definitely know that the kind of reaction an actor would get in a particular scene. But I also fully aware that if we try to do it on purpose, it will fail. So
nice.
So it's whenever Bhairava works on the paper, I know he'll work on screen and he'll work with the audience. Like reverse engineering will always feel flat.
Yeah. So what in the next 2 weeks to release look like for the 3 of you? What all are you doing right now?
We're counting in hours for sure, like you said, and I think, this is now the most overwhelming situation, to get things right and to have it on time, and lot of sleepless nights coming your way, and we see that.
I am tensed, and I'm just gonna go and watch the movie. Imagine the people who made it.
There's marketing, there's dubbing, there's CGs, and
thank God they said dubbing. That means they're still working on the dubbing. Please.
They're different languages. I mean, and on top of it,
and obviously a lot of people telling us, oh, that market, this market, but we all know that. Listen, it's not the market; it's the story. It's a story, and it's clearly the audience. And
nice to hear that from the producer.
We're making it for them, and we sincerely make it, and we give it to them.
Yeah. Okay, I have 2 very quick questions. One, what can you tell us about part 2? Because there has to be a part 2.
I was just thinking that this is probably our first interview together, like all 3 of us. I don't think I ever did that, so that is cool.
Did you ever do?
I don't think so.
Wow.
Yeah, really?
That's pretty cool. So
I'm so happy you did it with me.
It's been about 10 years or something, no? Like that we've worked together. Which is cool. I don't even know if we both did an interview together, did we? No, properly, maybe not. But yeah, so this is cool. So this is nice. It's a good culmination of 10 years.
Nice.
So what will happen in the future, we don't know.
Nice answer.
That was all just a way to say, I'm not telling you anything about part 2. Okay, one last question. There's a character in Yevade who, of course, quotes the Bhagavad Gita and says ki, for anyone, you work, you strive, or phal ki fikar mat karo. Right? Is it possible when you put in this much work for so many years, this much sweat and passion and money to actually achieve that state? How are you feeling about that Friday?
It depends on, I don't know if it's possible, it's ideal, but it's, I think it depends on what that fal means.
Like,
what does it mean for you?
Nice.
For
What
me,
is success?
It just means doing justice to the story, mainly. Like, I think my biggest fear, even with Mahanati, like these guys definitely had that the budget and the market sort of fear, but for me it was always like, what if anybody at all says, why did you touch this story? It was not, why is she such a legend? Like, why did you touch it? So it's just the fear of doing justice. So if I want to do this film,
that's good. That's what you need, because I think worry for me is not how much. For them also, see, Prabhas and the star cast, I'm sure 100, 200, 300 crores. I think they're gonna even, like, they're gonna make the money. Money is not the issue. It should work. Like, it should come together. Like, the experience gonna, like, the future possibility, like, everything relies on this to work. And the character, the story, everything needs to work. That's the important part. And if people love that, and they follow it and they love it, that's the victory. Money will come in. If the film is good, people like it break records. It's already, I think, broken records in US. I think already like 1 million tickets something sold, or 1 million already they have, like, in advance booking, whatever. So money is not the issue. It needs to work.
Or like somebody saying you're doing a mytho sci-fi and you want to talk about like the Puranas, you're trying to expound on the Mahabharata. It's like, why do you touch it? Like, why do you want it? So if anything has been tough these past few years, it's been the fact that, just trying to be enough, basically.
Yeah, just to make that good film,
it.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think the greatest learning that I've had personally in what we've started with, or the years of experience that my dad's brought into our lives, whenever we calculated, it went wrong. I feel, cinema is not calculation, storytelling is not calculation. I genuinely feel we should put our best foot forward in telling the story right, the way it deserves, and then everything will be taken care of. And that happened to us, and it will happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
And I
Great to hear
suspect
that.
mytho sci-fi will become like, a household descriptor, like Pan India became after Bahubali, right? We had never heard that word before, and suddenly everything was Pan India.
Right.
Mytho sci-fi will just be like, of course, mytho sci-fi.
I like
because why
mytho
not?
sci-fi.
I mean, it's great because you see once in a while somebody sends you a thread of like, 10 tweets about the Mahabharata.
Yeah.
And they're talking about like, little did you know that Ashwadama did la 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 la. And I'm like, good, talk about this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. This has been such a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you, and genuinely wishing you so much luck.
Thank you so much for visiting us.
Thank you. This is the very first interview, I guess, we're doing on the film.
Yes,
yeah?
yes, and thank you for coming all the way.
Not at all. Thank you for having me in Kasi.
All right. So that was a good interview. Something like I still have my own questions to ask him. But yeah, I think they're gonna be busy in the shoot. Maybe after the film. Not shoot as in until the release. It's very hectic. A lot of things to take care of. And cannot wait, man. I'm so excited because of the possibilities, I think more than the trailer, the 2 episodes we got, right? That excited me more because that showed me what they're trying to do. The trailer, it's a trailer for the film, you see the world, the things they've done a good job. I'm excited to watch the film, but that 2 episodes show just expands what, they're just telling a movie or 2 movies or 3 movies. They're expanding a whole franchise which is interconnected through different mediums. I'm sure if the film works, we're gonna get a video game. I'm sure. And if they are not I'm sure they're thinking. If they're not, they should be thinking about it. It's a great game idea, and they already have the assets. You can create such a good game, created in India, an Indian story which will be, played all around the world. Like, that's the potential here. And not just that, TV shows, animated shows you already got, the films. We're gonna have our own Star Wars, maybe. That's the hope, right? But very happy with this. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below, and you can share this video next, and hopefully more interviews come. I'll be reacting to them too, especially with Bhardos Rangan if it happens. But I will see you next time.